Semantics is the study of linguistic meaning. Semantics deal with the meanings of words and how the meaning of sentences are derived from them. Again, we have the Lego principle, according to which the meaning of the whole will be related to the meaning of the pieces, sometimes with one or two chemical reactions happening in putting the pieces together. In studying meaning, we will differentiate between the meaning of words, which is the field of lexical semantics, and the meaning of whole sentences, which belongs to compositional or sentential semantics. The first obvious question we need to ask in semantics is, what does it mean to mean something, and how does language do it? Meaning is a very complex phenomenon, and different aspects of meaning need to be explained in different ways, so that they are studied differently since they are governed by different principles. So let's review some theories. The first theory explores the idea that language communicates information about the world around us. We can talk about more or less familiar things, events, and ideas, and we can transmit our comments about them to one another. But saying something about something, I can expand your knowledge about the world, even if it's just by inviting you to see it from my personal perspective, as when I say, walruses are cute marine mammals. And perhaps you might even benefit from some information content of something I said. When I say, mudskippers are fish that walk on land and appear to breathe air, I'm aiming at expanding your knowledge of the world. And of course, you can always go and contrast whether the information I gave you agrees with the real world. You never know when knowledge about mudskippers might become handy, so here you have your answer.
Mudskippers, which can be found in the mudflats of mangrove forests from West Africa to New Guinea, are fish that spend most of their time out of the water. They walk, eat, and court on land. They're the only fish to do all this on land instead of in the big drink. They carry water in their large gill chambers, which they use in the exact opposite way you'd use scuba gear. You carry air to breathe in the water, they carry water to breathe in the air. Since their eyes stick out on top of their...
If an expression or word has a meaning, then it follows under this view that it must have a referent, something it refers to in the real world. Certainly, many words seem to stand for or refer to actual objects or relations in the world. If I say, my friend Christina, there is surely a person out there I am mentioning who I am in a friendship relationship with. And the word dog points to a dog in the real world, and the expression, my dog Oz, to a concrete dog waiting for me at home. Here you have him. But surely there is more to linguistic meaning than just conveying information about a referent. There are many words in language that do not clearly refer to an entity in the world. The word unicorn or Santa Claus. No matter what my children say, they are not real. And I hope I'm not crushing anybody's holiday dreams by proclaiming this. In any case, the referential view on meaning also can't give an account of the meaning of expressions like thank you or please. They clearly have a meaning, as we know because they do a lot for our social relationships, and there are clear contexts in which we know we need to use them to convey the meanings we want to convey to our interlocutor. But what would a referential account of those look like? And the same goes for words like the, only, or not. They have meaning, but not a referential one. Still, semantics does not give up on explaining these words, for example by claiming that they are oddities. There are hundreds of articles, books, and doctoral dissertations on the meaning of definiteness or negation. So clearly, we have theories that capture these other dimensions of linguistic meaning. Another problem with the referential theory of meaning is that expressions with the same referent might not be interchangeable, thus indicating that they do not have the same meaning. Let me develop this point a bit. This is Barack Obama, the winner of the 2009 and the 2013 USA presidential elections. And these two expressions, Barack Obama and the winner of both the 2009 and the 2013 USA presidential elections, have the same referential meaning because they refer to the same person. Now, expressions with the same meaning should be interchangeable in speech. It is clear that if I tell you, Jana is good at doing puzzles, and you know that Jana is my daughter, the sentence I said before should mean the same as my daughter is good at doing puzzles. And here you have her, by the way. So back to Barack Obama. If the expression Barack Obama and the winner of both the 2009 and the 2013 presidential elections refer to the same person, the sentence, "Did you know that Barack Obama was the winner of the 2009 and 2013 USA presidential elections?" should mean the same as, "Did you know that Barack Obama was Barack Obama?" But clearly it doesn't. So again, the referential view on linguistic meaning clearly does not capture all the dimensions of what it means that a linguistic expression means something. We need more insight on the nature of meaning. So if it's not only the referent in the real world, what else is there? One possibility is that the word's meaning is a mental image. This idea of meaning should help us with the unicorns and the Santa Claus of this world, because those expressions certainly conjure images in our mind, but we need to be a bit more concrete of what we mean for a mental image. When I tell you the word dog, what image appears in your mind? Dogs come in many shapes and sizes, but most likely, when I said dog, you didn't think of a complete catalog of dog breeds, or about all single dogs that you might have shared your life with. Most likely, instead of a plurality of images, you thought of a typical or a clear example of a dog, something like this, just the cute pup next door. Most people didn't think of a Chinese crested dog or a decorated poodle, although those are also still dogs, and you didn't think either of Pluto or of your favorite toy dog. Somehow, we need to account for the fact that for most people, the meaning of dog invokes a mental image of a typical dog, but clearly some provision must be made for atypical dogs. As with the referential theory of meaning, the theory of meaning as mental images also has to deal with the fact that many words simply have no clear mental images attached to them. What are our mental images of words like forget, or concept, or either? While both the referential theory of meaning and the idea of meaning as a cognitive and psychological phenomenon capture important aspects of linguistic meaning, we clearly need more. And of course, we have been talking about words. What about the meaning of sentences? In order to start tackling the problem of sentential meaning, let's recover the idea that meaning involves a relationship between language and the world. What do we know when we know what a sentence means? Well, we know what a sentence means if we know the conditions under which it would be true. For example, take the sentence, Eva is wearing a black sweater. What are the truth conditions of this sentence? Which is to say, what does the world have to look like in order for this sentence to be true? We know that if Eva is wearing a black sweater, someone who understands the sentence will know that the sentence, Eva is wearing a black sweater, is true. Likewise, if Eva is not wearing a black sweater, someone who understands the sentence will know that the sentence, Eva is wearing a black sweater, is false. And in the world I'm inhabiting right now, this sentence is true. This might appear to be a bit trivial, but the minimum that we need to say for someone to have understood a sentence is that the person has been able to compare the sentence with the situations in which the sentence is true and has been able to distinguish those from the situations under which the sentence is false. In sum, we can associate the knowledge of the meaning of a sentence with the situations or scenarios in which the sentence is true. So the truth-conditional approach to linguistic meaning claims that the meaning of a sentence is the set of situations in which the sentence is true. We call this meaning the denotation of the sentence, and we symbolize it with double square brackets. Just like the other linguistic disciplines, semantics has its own set of technicalities. For example, this is how we represent that the denotation of the sentence, Eva is wearing a black sweater, like this, in square brackets and bold font, is the set of situations in which Eva is wearing a black sweater. We use the curly brackets and the two periods from set theory, and the little s stands for situations. Not all semantic theories have the same notations, but this is one we can use for our purposes. And that's it from our reflections on the nature of meaning. Let's now turn to which kind of relations words or concepts can have with one another. Words express not only meanings in themselves, but also meaningful relationships with each other. Lexical semantics is the part of semantics that studies the meaning relations between individual words, and some of these relationships are discussed now. The first kind of semantic relationship is hipponemy. A word X is a hipponym of a word Y if in all possible scenarios, X's set is always contained in Y's set. In other words, X's set is always a subset of Y's set. For example, hounds are a kind of dogs. All instances of hounds are dogs, so the set of hounds is a subset of the set of dogs. Hound is therefore a hipponym of dog. And the same for dogs. All dogs are animals, so dog is a hipponym of animal. Now try to think whether the following words are in a relationship of hipponemy. Take your time and look for the answers online. The second type of semantic relationship is synonymy. Two words are synonymous if they have the same meaning. In terms of sets, if the sets of entities they pick out are always the same. It is difficult, and perhaps impossible, to find pairs of words that mean absolutely the same and that are interchangeable in all contexts. So it's been claimed that synonymy is always partial. The closer we can get to finding synonyms is with pairs of words like dad, father, room, quarter, lorry, truck, and fast, quickly. Like before, try to find out whether the following examples hold at least some degree of synonymic relationship. Antonyms are opposites. This is far from a simple relationship. There are several ways in which words can be opposites. The first type of antonymy is contradictory or complementary antonymy. This is when given two words, X and Y, every entity in the world is either in one or the other set. For example, visible, invisible. The world is divided between the things that we can see and those that we can't, and there is not a third category in this duality. Relational opposites, or contraries, are pairs of words defining sets such that everything in the world is either in one set or the other, or in neither of the two. But crucially, nothing is in both sets. For example, the pair of adjectives alive and dead. An entity might be alive or dead, but not both. And of course, some things like a rock or a table or water are not alive, and they are also not dead, since to die you have to first be alive. So the pair of adjectives alive, dead are relational opposites or contraries. Scalar or gradable antonyms are relational opposites that in addition are ordered with respect to each other along a scale between two endpoints. For example, hot, cold. Something can be hot or cold, or neither, but not both at the same time. And whether it is one or the other will depend on the scale we measure it with. Here you have more examples. Try to figure out whether they are contradictory, contrary, or gradable pairs. Homonyms, also called homophones, are two words that sound the same, but have different meanings. They do not have any relationship to each other than being pronounced the same way, most times as a historical or morphological accident. For example, the words night, as in see you tomorrow night, and knight, as in Lancelot the Knight of the Cart. Polysemy is when a word has several but related meanings. For example, the English word bank, which can mean the financial institution, the building where the financial institution makes its business, and as a verb, it means to rely upon, as in you can always bank on your good friends when you need them. Notice, however, that the other meaning of bank, synonym with riverbed, is only a homonym to these others, because although it sounds the same, their meanings are not related in any way. And the last semantic relation we will be seeing is metaphorical extension. A metaphor is the use of a word to identify something as something else, and giving it some new meaning in the process. For example, when we talk about the foot of a mountain, we are structuring the geological formation as a living creature, with the feet at the bottom and the peak or crown at the top. We use metaphors to structure concepts that are very difficult to grasp with direct experience, which we can only comprehend indirectly. For example, time is a very elusive reality. If you think about it, we only learn to measure the duration of events when they give us an artificial scale. In our culture, one made of seconds, minutes, hours, and so forth. In fact, time is so difficult to define and even experience that we need to use our knowledge of more accessible domains in order to even understand it. Space is one of such accessible domains, since we do have clear experience of spatial relationships. Things are in front of other things, or behind them, or inside or outside of one another. And we have direct experience of that. We can see and touch and feel these things. When we transfer our knowledge about space to the domain of time, we get to speak and think about time in spatial terms. We suddenly say and understand that the present is here, the past behind us, and the future in front of us, or that I will come in a minute, or on time, or I am running behind the schedule, or looking forward to our meeting. The metaphor time is space is a prevalent thought metaphor in our culture, and all these words from the domain of space, in, on, behind, forward, and so forth, take on metaphorical extensions in their meaning in order to accommodate that. Now try finding the relevant semantic relationship between the following words. And remember, the answer key is online. And after that, we will finish with lexical semantics and start the new unit on the meaning of sentences. Sentences express ideas or events, and events have participants, which have certain roles in these events. For example, in the sentence, "The shark saw the fish," there are two participants, the shark and the fish, and an event of seeing. The shark is the one who does the seeing, and the fish is the one who is seen. The fact that you can agree with my understanding of this sentence, and any other sentence of course, indicates that the relationship between the words in the sentence and the meaning that the sentence expresses is systematic, rule-governed, if you wish. There are a number of roles that are commonly expressed by language, reflecting our conceptualization of a particular event, the kind of information that interests us about the things that happen around us. These roles are surprisingly universal. It seems that all humans tend to be interested in the same things when we look at a scene. Who did the action? Who suffered the consequences? Who was affected by the event? Where the event happened? Who benefited from it? And so on. These fixed roles are called thematic rules, and languages are organized to express them. Here is a list of the most common thematic rules: the agent, the patient, the instrument, the theme, the experiencer, the source, and the recipient. All verbs expressing an event will be associated with a certain set of thematic roles, expressed by the noun phrases that appear in the sentence with them. It is our task as linguists to find out the thematic roles associated with a given verb by examining the sentences it appears in. The set of thematic roles associated to a given verb is called the argument structure of that verb. In the following slide, I give you an example. Take the verb open. The goal is to identify the thematic roles that this verb is associated with, its argument structure. In order to do that, we take examples of the kind of sentences the verb open appears in. We have Alex opened the door with the key. In this sentence, the event of opening has three participants, corresponding to the three noun phrases. Alex is the agent, the person who does the action. The door is the theme, the thing in a state of location or undergoing change, from being closed to being open in this case. and the key is the instrument, the thing involved in the action that is not the agent. Syntactically, the agent is the subject of the verb, the door is the direct object, and the instrument is just an adjunct, or a modifier, within the prepositional phrase headed by with. But the verb open can also appear in other syntactic frames. In the sentence, the key opened the door, the instrument, the key, takes the syntactic function of the subject, but semantically, of course, continues to hold the thematic role instrument, because it means the same as it meant in the former sentence. The door is still the theme, and it is still the direct object. In this sentence, the agent is not expressed, although semantically it is still implied. Unless we are talking about magic keys, someone might have used the key to open that door. So as you see, semantic roles are somehow independent from syntactic functions. Verbs have a thematic structure that is dictated by their meaning, the amount and kind of participants that the event they denote requires, at least in our linguistically crystallized conception of it. And then they have their syntactic frame, the way these participants are organized in the syntactic structure. Our argument structure should somehow incorporate information about both, and then an algorithm that maps one onto the other, so that we ensure the correct expression of all the arguments of the verb. So keeping this in mind, let's return to our verb open. The next sentence we have is the door opened with the wind. Here the door is still the theme, and it functions as the subject of the sentence. This time the agent and the instrument are not expressed, but we have one further optional participant, the wind, which we can label as source, according to our guide on thematic roles, where the changes start from. And finally, the passive. The door was opened by Alex, where the theme is again the subject and the agent is expressed as an adjunct prepositional phrase. So putting all this information together, we have the following generalizations about the verb open. Thematically, it is associated with the semantic roles of agent and theme, and either an instrument or a source. Syntactically, it has a subject and a direct object, and it can also have a prepositional phrase. This information is particular to each verb, and we call it the argument structure of the verb. In order for a sentence to be well formed, it will have to comply with the argumental demands of its words. Sentences, of course, occur in conversations. So in order to fully understand the meaning of a sentence, we must understand the context in which it is used. Pragmatics is concerned with how people use language within a context. In this section, we will very briefly review one classic theory of the social rules governing human conversations. As people, we talk all the time, to a particular person, to no one in particular, to ourselves, even to a camera. Our exchanges serve many functions, from greetings to saying goodbye, requesting something, promising or threatening, swearing or praying. And it is part of our knowledge of language to know what to say in a particular situation. It is something we learn as part of our process of acquiring language. We acquire the pragmatics of a language or its rules of use. But what are those rules? The philosopher H.P. Grice proposed that in conversation, the speakers are guided by a general principle, which he called the Cooperative Principle, and which can be formulated as something like this. Make sure that what you say furthers the purpose of the conversation, whatever the purpose of the conversation is. He came to this conclusion in order to account for the non-existence of a conversation such as the following, which is clearly non-cooperative because what is said in each turn does not seem to bear any relevance with the purpose of the conversation. Listen. Do you want another piece of cake? I see. Spiders have 8 legs. Wow, pit bulls are really sweet dogs. Okay, I think we're ready for tea. In order to enforce compliance with the cooperative principle, Grice proposed a series of conversational rules, or maxims, that regulate conversations. The first one is the maxim of quality, which dictates, do not say what you believe to be false, or that for what you lack adequate evidence. In sum, be reliable. The second one, the maxim of relation, recommends you to be relevant in your contributions, and assume that your interlocutor's words are also relevant. The third maxim is the maxim of quantity, which urges you to make your contribution as informative as required and no more informative than required. In a word, be brief in what you have to say. And finally, the maxim of manner, which urges you to avoid obscurity and be orderly in order to ensure that you are understood correctly. These maxims are both rules around which speakers construct their utterances and assumptions they make about the things their interlocutors say. Of course, most of the fun of having rules is to break them, and speakers manipulate the system in order to achieve diverse communicative effects. For example, imagine you ask me whether I want to go out tonight, and I answer, I just bought ice cream. I seem to break the maxim of relation. My buying ice cream has no clear relation to our plans for tonight. But perhaps I only buy ice cream when I plan to spend the evening at home binge-watching my favorite TV series, in which case it is highly relevant to your question, since it is a polite way to decline your invitation. But unless you know about it, and I know that you know about it, I'm also breaking the maxim of quantity, since I am not being informative enough about the relevance of my answer. I might have violated these maxims due to sloppiness, or maybe I did it intentionally, because I was trying to intrigue you by being obscure, overriding the maxim of manner, by the way. In any case, the instinct to assume the cooperative principle in conversation is so powerful that if you are like most people, you will try to interpret the things I say in a way that complies with the maxims, and think that I'm being true, relevant, informative, and clear, instead of assuming that I just had a moment of communicative madness. In sum, meaning is a very complex phenomenon, but I hope to have made clear that it is a highly structured linguistic system. The study of meaning gives us a fascinating insight on the two main functions of language. On the one hand, the function of language as a communicative tool is central in analyzing the structure of the conversational maxims and the rules governing conversations, to which we could add the role of the principle of compositionality. On the other hand, the study of lexical semantics and event structure is a window into the powerful role that language plays in aiding us to effectively conceptualize our world by organizing our concepts and focusing our attention on the relevant participants in a scene, so that we can make sense of what we are seeing or imagining. On the other hand, perhaps it was the development of a complex symbolic system what allowed us to see relations and imagine the world around us in a way that we would not have perceived otherwise, and to develop subtle ways to communicate them to one another. When it comes to meaning, then, the function of language and its structure are, once again, in a dynamic yin-yang relationship of exquisitely tuned interdependence.